video already on the paperwork needed to purchase a home or to make an offer, so I will link that video below. So let's get started. The first form is the consumer notice. This is a form that every person who meets with a real estate agent should receive on their first meeting, and it says at the very top, this is not a contract. Basically, this is something that the state of Pennsylvania requires us to give everyone. And the consumer notice basically lays out what the seller agent does, the buyer agent, and the dual agent. In addition, they go through the duties that the real estate agent would owe to the consumer, like to deal honestly and in good faith. So the sellers will sign this as well as your agent. Even if you decide not to go with that agent, you're just having them come to the house to look at your property. The next form is the listing contract, and there are a couple of contracts, but the one that is mostly used in Pennsylvania and probably across the country is the exclusive right to sell real estate. It's a 6-page contract, and basically you sign it and your agent signs it. It is giving your agent exclusive rights to list, market, and sell your property. And just to highlight a few things, there will be the place for the list price on the contract. It will have a start date and an ending date. And by law, the listing contract cannot be longer than 1 year. Paragraph 5 also covers the broker's fee. So that's going to be not only the fee for your listing broker and agent, but also for any agent and broker who would bring a buyer. Typically that's 5 to 6% in this area, and then both of the companies would split it in half. On page 5 of the contract, something as a seller you'll have to think about is what you are going to include in the sale, and there's a place in paragraph 27 for you to fill that out. So anything that is not a fixture or is not attached to the home, you have to really consider if you want to include that in the sale of your home. For instance, TVs attached to the wall with brackets, blinds are usually included. Curtains though, if you want to include curtains, go ahead and write that in there. In Pennsylvania, the refrigerator, washer, and dryer are usually negotiable. So you can leave those out and just leave them open for negotiation. But if you know that you want to include them, or if you know you would like to exclude them, then there's a place in paragraph 27 for you to write that to make sure it gets into the listing in the MLS. If you are in a condo association or a homeowners association, there's a place on paragraph 28 for you to fill out the name, the phone number, and what the fees are involved in that and what is covered under that. And then on the very last page, on page 6, basically you can write in any additional terms that you would like, but you would sign the contract and then your new agent would sign it as well on behalf of their broker. If your property was built before 1978, another form you will have to fill out as the seller is the residential lead-based paint hazards disclosure form. So this is a very important form. It's to disclose if you have any knowledge or any reports of lead-based paint in your home. Once a listing agreement is signed, I usually bring this sheet with me. It's called a property description sheet, and it's just so I don't miss anything about the property. If the seller doesn't have time to go through the house and walk through and kind of answer everything, then I will leave this form behind. It goes through all the features that are included, all the systems, all the materials that everything is made out of, like your roof, your siding, things like that. So you want to make sure that you go over this in detail because buyers have all sorts of questions, and it just makes it easier to market your home and to sell your home when your realtor knows all about your home and the features and the materials and how it was built. The last form is very important. Usually after you sign a listing agreement, the agent will leave this with you at the home and ask you to fill it out and take care to do it and take your time. So it is the seller's property disclosure statement. It's a 10-page form. So this should really be done as soon as possible, ideally before you list the property, but it needs to be filled out and given to any buyer before they make an offer. The disclosure statement is the seller disclosing any knowledge of any condition about the property they are selling. In addition to the seller filling out the seller's disclosure, the seller needs to make sure that if there's any material defect, so if there's a problem with the property and that problem would affect a buyer and the offer that they would be making. So if there was a previous leak and it was fixed, you need to disclose that. If there's an issue with the septic, you need to disclose that. Anything that you know that could be a problem or is a problem with the property, you are required by law to disclose that to any buyer that is interested in making an offer. So there is a place, like for instance, paragraph 4 is the roof and attic. And the first question is, when was the roof installed? So you can check yes, no, unknown, or not applicable. A lot of people do check unknown if it's an older house and they just don't know when it was replaced. And then below it says, has the roof ever leaked during your ownership? And if there was a problem with your roof, then there is a place for you to fill out where the location and what the problem was and what repair was done to fix the leak. So if you go through all of the 10 pages, it basically hits everything. Structural, if you did any additions, if you had any termite issues. It also goes over all of your utilities. So is it a public water system? Is it a private system with well? All of that. So you really need to take your time and make sure that this is filled out correctly. So these are the basic forms needed to list your house in Pennsylvania. There are always going to be exceptions to the rules. If there's unusual circumstances, then there are addendums for that, or just blank addendums if you need to draw something else up. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on my next video.